I was very lucky that my parents were very supportive of me being just being totally myself. Like they were always very supportive of like, you do you, and that's a wonderful thing. So I learned early on that to be my own person was really, really special and great and what everybody should do. I feel like it takes a really strong person to be able to be vulnerable and to just say, hey, you know what? This is what I'm struggling with right now. This is what I'm dealing with. How can you be, how can you be there for me? How can I be there for you? It takes a strong person to be able to admit that.
Welcome to yourbrilliance.com. I'm your host, Amy Waterman. Has a man ever told you that you're too much for him? You're too intense, you're too loud, you're too deep, you're too opinionated, you're just too much in general? Or maybe he never told you, but he implied it. You should be quieter, you should be easier, you should be less demanding, you should be more like him. Well, gone are the days when ladies had to be demure and accommodating. In the 21st century, we're allowed opinions. We can raise our voice. We can disagree. But sometimes being who you are means not being who men want you to be. Our guest for today understands exactly how that feels. Spyce was a self-described ballsy bitch who was always in charge. Her confidence put a lot of guys off until she met the man who would become her husband. And today, Spyce is a love empowerment coach who works with strong women to help heal and change their patterns around love and intimacy. She calls herself an erotic educator who uses her background in performance to entertain, sometimes in song, while making the world safer for sex and love. She's the creator and host of her own podcast, The Spycey Buzz, and she offers a transformational group program called Love Cleansing Bootcamp. Welcome, Spyce.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
So I want to know your story. You say that you were born fearless and outgoing. How did that affect your dating experiences?
Well, I think that even though in some ways I feel like I was born this certain way, I feel like it also had a lot to do with my experiences growing up. I was very lucky that my parents were very supportive of me being just being totally myself. Like they were always very supportive of like, you do you, and that's a wonderful thing. So I learned early on that to be my own person was really, really special and great and what everybody should do. So I never really had any like weird stigma around like, oh no, you should be quiet, or oh, you shouldn't say this. And so I learned very early on that if I wanted to get what I wanted, that I needed to be able to speak up. And I didn't have shame around it. I wasn't taught that there was shame in asking for what you want. I was actually taught that there was that there was actually like a greatness in asking for what you want, and there was pride in asking for what you want. So that has really allowed me to become this person who just really went through life having the experiences that I wanted to have. Now, I'm not going to say that every single relationship I've ever had has been amazing and spectacular. And I've certainly had my share of picking the wrong person or not necessarily getting the exact experience that I wanted. However, I do feel that because of my upbringing and because of the ways that I was supported as a young person, it allowed me to really go out there and have the things that I wanted to have.
That's so different from like most dating advice. There's a lot of dating advice out there. And most of it says something along the lines of, this is what men want, and here's how you can shape yourself into what men want. Very little of it says who you are is good enough. And if he doesn't like you, fine. And you need to focus on defining what you want rather than figuring out what they want and giving it to them. So I'm confused though, because all this advice seems to say that men want women who mold themselves to what they want. Men want women who stroke their egos. Men don't want women who overpower, overshadow them. Do you think men really do prefer women who know what they want, or do they prefer these amenable women?
I think that for me, I don't really care because I don't want men like that. So I'm not going to like make myself a certain way to get a man that I don't want. A man like that is somebody who's going to be wanting to be in control and who at the end of the day is essentially a big baby who wants to have his needs met, his ego stroked, and and for me, okay, I'm a strong woman and I work specifically with strong women, and what we want and what we need is to have our egos stroked and to be in a relationship with somebody that um, it's an equal kind of thing, where it's not this whole kind of dynamic of like, you're the man and I have to be this certain way with you and I'm the woman and I have to be this way. I feel like in today's world, we as women, we can be who we want to be. We can be strong women. We can have our needs met. And I think it's just really about finding the men that are okay with that and that are more than okay with that actually want that. I think the men that want these, amenable women, as you say, have very low self-esteem. They want to feel like that, oh, I'm in charge. And, that's great if you want to be in charge. But at the end of the day, what does being in charge really mean? To me, being in charge means that you are taking care of the people in your life. You are there for the people in your life. You are putting yourself actually second. You're not going into the world, or you're not going to your house and saying, all right, lady, like, bring me my drink and bring me my paper. That's like so antiquated. If you really are a strong man, you are going there and you're saying, how can I be there for you? How can I support my family? How can I support my wife, my children, and the people in my lives? To me, that's the sign of a strong man. It's not somebody who's going to say, oh, well, succumb to my will. That's not strength.
That is so fantastic, because it's so true that the strategy you use to attract men determines the kind of men that you attract. So, but I really want to tease in there, a lot of women, myself included, have found that actually being a strong woman puts a lot of men off, and sometimes even the kind of good guys you really want to meet. Like, one of the common things is you go out on a first date with a shy guy, and you just like, you're like the steamroller and you flatten him because he's just sitting there and you're just trying, you're yourself and you're trying to make it fun, and he's just kind of shrinking as you go. So how do we keep our natural exuberance and passion and how we know our mind from kind of flattening these guys who are slightly softer?
Well, I used to really feel like that alpha women needed alpha men, but I really learned that one of the best things for an alpha woman is a beta man. And, so you're talking about these shy guys. And I think sometimes rather than being like, hey, look, I'm really powerful, because that's what you kind of have to do when you're with one of these alpha men. You're trying to show them, hey, look, I'm powerful too. However, if you meet a guy that is, maybe not putting that out there, those men might actually be really strong, and those men might be the ones that will actually be able to be there for you in that way. But you need to be able to, if you're okay with this, to coax them out and to be able to say, like when they're feeling shy, say, well, hey, so tell me about you. The same way that I think men are taught in dating relationships to ask a lot of questions and to, find out about the woman, and that's how you draw her out. It's the same thing. So, with these guys that maybe are not as outgoing, you can just draw them out. And there's a difference between drawing somebody out and steamrolling them, And so to be able to just talk to them in this way of like, hey, so tell me about you and tell me about your struggles and what you're dealing with. And I'm sure it must be hard for you to be shy in this society where men are taught that they have to be this, all encompassing, like alpha dude. And I feel like that when you do that, it's just kind of a thing of with human nature. When you talk to people and you draw them out, they're going to feel more comfortable with you. And then they start to see the real, genuine person that is you. And I think that that's what the core of all of this is. It's really about being who you genuinely are, and not trying to be somebody else in order to get this particular kind of person.
So I want to ask a few more questions about that, because just thinking back now of my own experience with men who are shyer and more passive, one of the issues I've come across is the more as a woman you know your own mind, sometimes the more he's just willing to go along with it. So instead of getting that powerful mind that butts heads with yours and says, actually, no, I don't want to do this. You know, don't want to do what you say. I want to do something else. And you get that kind of exciting, ooh, you know, which should we do? You get a guy who just wants you to be happy and says, yes, dear, and doesn't really have much to say, because he actually enjoys the fact that you're doing all the thinking, you're doing all the planning, you're doing all the moving the relationship forward, and he just gets to go along for the ride. So how can we make sure that we get that balance where it's not just us being the leader and he can kind of step in too?
hmm Yeah, well, I think that a lot of times that is an issue that I feel like as strong women we deal with a lot, because it gets tiring to feel like you're always steering the ship. And, you know, when you're a strong woman in so many respects in your life, you want to be able to have the space where you can just kind of relax and have somebody else just take care of everything. And what I've found, because, you know, to be honest, my husband is somebody who he doesn't appear like, you know, when I first met him, I was like, oh my gosh, this guy is so like, you know, he's so shy, he's so quiet, he's so demure. And it really was because I wasn't drawing him out in the correct way. Once he had the feeling of that he was, once he felt secure with me, he was able to then step up to the plate and be like, you know, actually, I want to do this. And actually, I'm going to do that for you. And this man treats me like an amazing goddess, does so much for me, is so much more just there for me and supportive than any of these other kind of more alpha men that I've dated. You know, the alpha men, like I said before, they want somebody who is going to succumb to their will. They want somebody who's going to do stuff for them. Whereas these other men, once they understand and they know that you're in it with them and that you're not just going to be like, oh my God, he's so boring, I feel like it allows them to step up to the plate and to really be able to be there for you in that strong way. Because a lot of these men, they are very strong and they do have the capacity to give you and to nurture you in a way that a lot of alpha men can't, because the alpha man is too focused on his own needs.
That's fantastic. So I want to go to something that a lot of strong women struggle with, especially when they get the traditional kind of dating advice. A lot of strong women are told, your strength is masculine. So when you show up on a date with your strength, you're putting masculine energy out there and you're repelling men. So they say you should develop your feminine energy. And unfortunately, when you're a strong woman, you think feminine energy is weakness, is passivity, is sitting back and letting him order your food for you. How do you approach the whole masculine feminine energy thing for strong women?
Hmm. Well, you know, for me, I don't really believe that much in this whole dynamic of this is masculine and this is feminine. I feel like because I'm a woman, pretty much anything that I do is feminine. I don't feel like there's a characteristic of like, if you're strong and assertive, that means you're masculine. And if you're weak and demure, that means you're feminine. I feel like these are things that have been put upon us by society, and they're just not really true. And so I feel like when you can just, like I said before, just really be true to who you are and be putting yourself out there as like, this is who I am. And there's a lot of space in that for vulnerability, which is seen as a more, which is seen as a more feminine trait, but I actually see as a more masculine trait, because I feel like it takes a really strong person to be able to be vulnerable and to just say, hey, you know what? This is what I'm struggling with right now. This is what I'm dealing with. How can you be there for me? How can I be there for you? It takes a strong person to be able to admit that. And so I feel that's a way that women can show the man that, hey, look, I'm not just somebody who's just out there for myself. And like I said, those aspects of like the alpha man of just like, oh, I'm just there for me. I feel like that's the same kind of thing, you know. So women are taught, or these strong women who you're talking about, like who feel like they're maybe steamrolling the men, or they're putting themselves out there in this like masculine way. It's like they're saying, oh, I'm just in it for me, and I don't care about what you need. But to be able to say, like, I care about what you need, and I'm here for you, and I'm also here to be open about what I need. To me, that is, I don't know if that's a masculine or a feminine trait. I feel like that's a strong human trait. And whether it's seen as masculine because it's strong, okay, but I don't see it that way. I just see it as being a strong human. And I feel like if we were able to take the masculine and feminine identities off of these characteristics, then we could just be free to be ourselves, and to be strong, and to be vulnerable, and to be kind and conscious, and have that all be a part of just being human, as opposed to labeling it as masculine or feminine.
I really love that, because one of the things that strong women often struggle with is admitting that they can need another human being and being vulnerable. And that just is not their femininity coming out, but it's trying to become more whole. So that's great. So you work with one-on-one with women, and you offer periodically a love cleansing boot camp. Tell us more.
Yeah, so basically, the Love Cleansing Bootcamp is a 3-month program that I offer to women, where we can really get deep into all of these things that make us who we are, and that can sometimes inhibit us from having the love that we want to have. So whether somebody is in a relationship and they're unhappy, or whether they are single and unhappy, it's really about looking at what are the things that you really want in relationship, and then removing all of the blocks that are stopping you from having that, and empowering you to be able to have the exact kind of relationship you want to have. So whether you want to have multiple relationships, whether you want to find somebody to marry, whether you want to say, what I really want for me is to be single, it's really just about finding out, what do you want? What are your needs? What are your wants? And then feeling good enough about yourself to be able to move forward and get those needs and wants met. And coming up with the boundaries that you need, because I feel like a lot of times that's a big thing with women and with people in general. We all want to have love. We all want to have a feeling of that there's somebody out there who just really puts us first. And so because of that, a lot of times we circumvent our boundaries, and we say, well, I feel this way, however, I'll just do it again this time, or I'll just like let it go this time. I can see that there's this thing, I can feel this red flag coming up about this person, but I can change him, or I'll bend myself to make sure that this thing can happen. Or the whole thing of, oh, but I love him, and not even really looking at, well, what is love? Like, what does that mean to you? What are you actually trying to get here? So for me, that's a really important question. And in the Love Cleansing Bootcamp, we go really deep about what actually is love, and what is it that you're actually looking for. And then, we work with that and create a format where you can have action steps to actually get the things that you want.
Fantastic. And for those of you watching, if you want to learn more about Spyce's Love Cleansing Bootcamp, or how you can work with her one-on-one, we've got a link for you. Just go to yourbrilliance.org/Spyce. That's yourbrilliance.org/SPYCE. Thank you so much, Spyce, for coming onto the show. We're coming to the end, and I wanted to know if you had any last message you would like to leave our viewers with.
Well, I really feel like love is such a core need that we all have. That whole feeling of like wanting true love is something that we all feel. And to me, true love is really about having unconditional love for somebody. It's about having love that creates a feeling of that you feel like you're becoming a better person, where it makes you feel like you can really truly be who you are, be seen for who you are, and be cherished for that. It's not about like shame or blame, or why didn't you do this, or hurt, or lies, or if you loved me, then you would. It's about, I see you as who you truly are, and I just want you to be more of who you are. And so when people can have that kind of love, I just feel like it can help you in so many other aspects of your life. I feel like it can help you in business and family and friends and relationships of all kinds. And you can feel better about yourself as a person because you know, I truly have this love. And it's not always about having the love outside of yourself. Obviously, that love has to come from within. So I really love to empower people to make peace with their own relationship to love and what it means to them, and then that can help you to further your relationship with love with everybody else.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And thank you out there for watching. We hope to see you again soon. Until then, let your brilliance shine.